Hey, it's Aisha Marie. 11, keep on vibing, keep on vibing, keep on says peace, spread the word. Today's topic is going to be the pros and cons of being deformed or having a disability. I'm going to talk about the negative first to get that out of the way. If you have a deformity or a disability, the biggest cons is a lot of people don't understand us. They don't want to deal with it. They might treat us differently because of the way we speak, the way we talk, the way we look. That's the biggest one for me. It's appearances is the biggest problem for me. Another con is if you're disabled or have a deformity, transportation can be very, very, very difficult. Trying to find good, reliable transportation in a rural area or a suburb area, it can be very challenging. A lot of people say, oh, you can't drive, you can't do this, you can't do that, but you have to divide everybody. And a lot of times, a lot of these services that the government provides doesn't always meet up the needs that we need to survive. Which brings on to con number 3, financial support. If you're disabled or have a deformity, finding financial support like Social Security or Social Security disability, it is extremely difficult. Try to live on your own with very, very little bit of money to survive. Just barely enough to buy food. That's about it. And then when you have a job and you had to work twice as hard to maintain your job, to keep your benefits, but if you make too much money, you lose everything. So that's one of the cons I go through myself. That's one of the biggest problems about being disabled or deformed. If you have any other feedback or whatever, please drop it in the comment section. I'm going to move on to the, before we begin the positive, dating and relationships is extremely difficult. It's very, very difficult to make friends. Even find a partner if you have a disability or deformity. In my experience, having a deformity and a disability internally and externally, making friends is easy for me. Finding a partner is not. because of the society that we live in today is so superficial. They don't see the inside. Kind of like what Jesus did. Like Jesus saw this man who was blind. He didn't care if he was blind or disabled or another person who had a limp or a leprosy. He didn't care. He just cared about everybody and tried to help everybody for who they are. That's the problem with this society today. We're living in 2022 and we're still treating people with disabilities like crap. Even with multiple disabilities, internal and external deformities, it needs to stop. Because I am getting tired of seeing that. I experienced it. People reject me because they say I'm annoying, but I'm not. I'm trying to reach out to you because I care. But now I'm going to move on to the positive. The positive thing about being disabled and deformed is people get to see who you are from the get-go. Even before you say one word. Only one word. If you are using a wheelchair or a cane or an oxygen tank, or some people have has a machine that has a heart beating on the outside of their body. Or it could be, or people who have Down syndrome or Tourette's or whatever the case may be. I have Frasier syndrome. Frasier syndrome, which is one of the rarest syndromes I have that anybody could have, and it affects every person differently. the blessing about that is you get to see people for who they are from the start before they say anything. A lot of times people are very judgmental and superficial. So think of it as a blessing. If they don't want to be your friend or your partner, think of it as a blessing before the problems start. That's one of the best positives that I can actually think of right now. Sometimes I started to look in the mirror and say, okay, I might not have the prettiest face to look at. But it's a blessing because people need to look at you in the eyes to communicate with you. If they don't want to look at me, that's fine with me. The second blessing of being disabled and deformed is that you're already inspirational even before you even do anything. You might inspire people. You might change people's lives. There's a couple pages on Instagram. And I think there's one channel on YouTube. It's called Special Books for Special Kids. This man is traveling around the world trying to bring awareness to people with disabilities. And I think that's like one of the most beautiful things I have seen in a very long time. The beautiful thing about being disabled is you're teaching people how to be humble. You're teaching people about acceptance. Some people become disabled later in life, and maybe that's one way of God telling you, okay, you need to humble down or something. It's different for everybody. Which brings me on pro number 3. The blessing of being disabled or deformed is that you are already a natural teacher. We are naturally creative. We might not know it. We see the world in a childlike manner. Most of us do. I'm one of them too. But I see the good and bad in the world too. But being disabled and deformed, we see things in a whole nother way. Like in the real world, they say, oh, we can't do anything, or they want the latest trends or the latest technology or whatever. We don't care about that. We just don't. We just have so much going on in our lives that we don't even care about trying to get the latest trends, the best bag, the best Gucci, or the best shoes, or whatever the case may be. We don't care because we don't have time for that. And I'm one of those people too, because I never like brand names or anything, other than maybe action figures and books. Which brings me to pro number 4. The positive thing about being disabled and deformed is we are actually showing who we are without a mask. We're already naturally forced or naturally exposed to be ourselves. A lot of people don't know how to be themselves anymore. They try to put like an alter ego or an ego or like a alternate version of yourself. When people have special needs or deformity, they are already forced to be open with themselves from the get-go. And that's why we are here on this earth, to teach you that. If you have any more positive pros and cons, positive attributes of being disabled or deformed, drop it in the comment section. And if you have any cons, drop them too. I'm always loving that feedback. Keep on vibing, keep on thriving, keep on just peace, spread the word.